So welcome to Digital Safety and Avoiding Online Scams. My name is Andrea with the Round Lake Area Library, and I'm going to present our speaker today, who is Rachel Murray. She's a librarian at Glencoe Public Library and does technical presentations all over Northern Illinois about a variety of technical and computer issues, and we're looking forward to what she has to say for us. Rachel?
Thank you so much, Andrea. Hello, everybody. I'm very, very happy to be here. This is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. Online safety and how we can avoid scams is a topic that all of us need to know more about. So I'm happy to be here to tell you about this. Now, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you because I have a PowerPoint presentation that's going to run through everything I want to talk to you about tonight. So thank you all for being here again. And are you able to see the presentation, Andrea?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So this is going to cover ways that we can be mindful of our online safety, and it's going to cover ways that you can try to prevent online scams and what to do if you are the victim of any kind of a data breach or identity theft involving digital materials. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we'll be talking about tonight. We are going to take a look at some digital crime statistics. We want to see how common this is, and it's far more common than most people realize. Then we'll discuss your personal digital profile. What of your information is going to be available online. The types of data loss that you can experience, either through identity theft or through any kind of a hack, if somebody gets into your actual computer or phone, what kind of data loss exists there. Then we're going to talk about how to protect your accounts and devices. We'll go over some best practices, things that you can do to make sure that your accounts are safer. And we'll talk about some protection services as well. All righty, so let's talk a little bit first about some data. What we're looking at here is some information that came from the Consumer Sentinel Network. This is actually a publication that is put out by the FTC each year. This is 2024 data because it's working on last year's data. But this is showing us kind of a breakdown of how often people experience data fraud, any other kind of fraud that involves their personal profile, that involves their information. And you can see that out of all of these, there are 6.5 million reports, and the top three categories of data loss for last year were credit bureaus and information furnishers. That's because I believe it was Experian had a data hack last year, so that really pumped up all of those stats for them. Number two is general identity theft. That can happen through the mail, over the phone, or it can also happen online. And imposter scams. Imposter scams are when somebody pretends to be someone or something else. And this is the most insidious kind of fraud that you're going to experience because it's trying to present itself, it's a criminal trying to present themselves as something legitimate, and they're getting better and better at doing it. Now, if we look across the United States, you can see on our map here, the darker the color, the more fraud reports you're going to see in those states. A lot of the time, it's going to be the higher populated states that will be darker. You can see Illinois is right here. But this is showing you just how much and how often for the second quarter of 2025, people were experiencing fraud over that time period. There were 1,400 and some change fraud, identity theft, and other reports during that time. This is based on reports that people are making to the FTC when they actually experience an identity theft or a data loss. And I'll be telling you a little bit about how you can go ahead and make a report like that yourself if you are a victim of identity theft. But you can see the top 10 report categories. Identity theft is right there. That's somebody getting a hold of your information and posing as you, or using your information like your passwords or your account numbers in order to access information or funds. Then there's imposter scams. Again, that's going to be people who are pretending to be another person, another business, and they're getting better and better at it. AI has made imposter scams much harder to detect because now they can put their emails through AI first, and it will not have the grammatical errors that we were used to seeing many years back in a lot of those fraud emails. But you'll see a lot of it is debt collection. One of the ones I want to point out is there's a lot of people who experience identity theft when they're searching for jobs. The reason is because you're offering a bunch of information to yourself to all of these different employers. And there are a lot of fraudsters and imposters out there that will pretend to be a legitimate company. They get your information, and then they use that in order to open accounts in your name or get into your other accounts that you have. So when you're applying for jobs, be very, very cautious. Don't ever supply anybody with your social security number. Don't give them your phone number either. It's always a good idea to start working through email and establish contact that way. Do your own independent research on any of the places you're applying. You can ask one of the librarians at the library. They'll be happy to assist you in finding what are the actual official phone numbers or emails for reaching out to this company. That can really put you at ease. So when you're applying for jobs, you know if you're really talking to them or not. So the top 10 fraud categories are going to include things like, again, imposter scams, online shopping. That's a big one. We put our credit card numbers in lots of different places these days, and we're going to end up with our data being out there whether we like it or not. Again, business and job opportunities. It's a huge category. Most identity theft comes from credit card numbers. Most of us have probably at one point or another seen a charge on a credit card that wasn't ours. You notify your credit card company and they will issue you a new card and cancel the old one. Other types of identity theft, including theft from the mail, somebody getting a hold of like a statement from your mortgage company, loan or lease. That's a common one, unfortunately, where people pose as someone else and take out a loan in their name. So there are lots of different ways that people who are bent on accessing our information are going to try to do that. Now, I want you to note, there's no way to prevent every security breach, scam, or hack. Unfortunately, there are going to be situations where even if you are super careful, a company or an agency that you work with, that you have an account with, is going to experience a data loss. They're going to get hacked and your information might get out there. That's the kind of hacking or data loss or identity theft that you cannot prevent on your own. When we give our information to these companies, we're relying on them to keep it safe. But unfortunately, there are going to be times when that information gets out there. The number one way to combat that is to be aware of safety trends and make sure that you're doing routine maintenance of your personal information. The best ways to prevent and minimize that is really going to be to know what's going on out there, to know what your account status is, to know what's on your credit report, and keep a close eye on it. So let's talk a little bit about your digital profile. Whether we like it or not, we have a lot of information about ourselves that appears online. Even if you're not somebody that spends a lot of time online, or you're not on social media, or you don't have a ton of accounts, most of us have at least an email address these days, and that gives us a digital footprint. Now, if you are somebody that actually enjoys social media, we have a lot of people that enjoy being on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. A lot of people are putting a ton of information out there from those services that they may not realize they're doing. They're often giving up what their birthday is. They're telling people how old they are. That's easy to get your birth year and your birth date then. You're telling people who your family members are. If you are telling people who your mother is and she has her maiden name in her Facebook profile, suddenly everybody knows your mother's maiden name. And that's a common question that is used for security on a lot of websites. So people are inadvertently posting things out there that they may not realize is being observed by other people. We're going to talk a little bit about friendship and romance scams in a little bit, and that's where people take someone else's social media pictures, whether from Instagram or Facebook, and they put a whole new profile there, pretend it's them, and they start reaching out to people. So people can even steal things like your picture. So it's really, really important that we're very mindful about what we're putting on the internet and what we're allowing even friends and family to put on the internet. The other digital profile we all have is government and health data. We all have data with the federal government, with the state government, because we have to file our taxes. Even if we're not filing taxes, we probably have like a social security account, or we have different health accounts with different health organizations. All of that information is stored in databases, and those databases can be hacked. They can be accessed, and that information can get out there. Now, again, that's not something we can prevent. We have to rely on the government and the healthcare organization to prevent those types of data loss, but it's out there and we need to be aware of it. We also have online merchant data. This is any place that you do shopping, any place that you're banking with, even things like mortgage companies. All of that is going to leave a footprint out there. Now, when we purchase a home, any place, that information about what we purchased and who the bank was that mortgaged it is available as a public record. So somebody can get a hold of that information. They'll know what bank to start looking at. They know your name, they know your birth date. Suddenly they can start making a real effort to get into your material. Our web browsing activity is more often than not being tracked, either by the browser that we're on or the website that we're on. We can turn a lot of that off in our browser, but our computer's still recording it and our phone is still recording it. People will try to go back and delete things that they've done on their phone or their computer. There is no way to permanently delete anything off of a phone or a computer. Somebody, the government is going to be able to get a hold of it. They'll be able to go back, they'll be able to unscramble the data. It'll take a while, but they're able to do it. So just be aware of that. A lot of times what I do nowadays is I store any important files off of my actual computer on an external drive that I then detach from my computer so that it can't be accessed if I'm not physically using it at the time. There's also going to be illegally accessed information. Now, this is things like the dark web. That's going to be where information is bought and sold. If somebody does happen to come across your social security number, they can sell that to somebody on the dark web and they'll get quite a bit of money for it. So they can barter with that information. So we have to be very careful again about who we're sharing that with. The other thing we need to be mindful of is what we're agreeing to when we click on accept on a website. When we click on accept, we are letting the website gather some information about us. We're making an agreement with them. We're letting them get some information about what we're doing with their service. And in return, they're giving us access to that service. The best example of that is something like Yahoo Mail or Gmail. When you first establish those accounts, you are agreeing that you're going to let them track certain amounts of data on you. Now, you can go into your settings and turn a lot of that off, but they're still going to have access to emails that have been sent to you, emails that you've sent to other people. And for the most part, the agreement will say that they're not going to share that with anybody unless it's subpoenaed. But if it's subpoenaed, they have to turn that over. So just be mindful when you're clicking accept on a shopping site or on an email site. You want to make sure what you're agreeing to. Most of us just click accept and go past those, but it is worth your time to take a little bit of time and look through it and see what you're agreeing to. You want to know what each party's responsibility is if there's a data loss experienced. What is that email company or shop supposed to do if they lose your data? Do they have to contact you? How quickly do they have to contact you? Do they have to provide you with some kind of credit monitoring service if there's a hack? You can find that out from reading that agreement. You also want to make sure that with these kinds of accounts, where you're sharing data with them, you want to make sure that you're maintaining control over those accounts. You want to make sure you have strong and regularly changed passwords. I know that's something that most of us dread, having to go in and change all of our passwords. It's a pain, but it is one of the best ways that you can keep your information safe. You can also use two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication is an additional step that you would either click on something on your email or in a text message in your phone that would send you a code. It's an additional step to verify who's accessing the account. The idea is somebody can't access your account unless they have your cell phone or your computer with them. You'll also want to make sure that you're looking at safe data connections. There's something out there called a VPN. It's a virtual private network. You can actually purchase access to those, and it essentially creates a tube between you and the computer you're communicating with. So whether you're talking to the IRS or you're talking to anybody else, it's going to allow you to go through and see that data connection with nobody else being able to see it. If you think about it, it's almost like a speaking tube that you'd be able to talk just to that person and nobody else is able to come through it. So what kind of data and privacy threats are the most common? We were looking at that data report from the Consumer Sentinel, and it was showing us that really a lot of imitation out there, a lot of impersonation, but data and privacy come from a lot of different places. We have to guard it from all of those places. There'll be data hacks. A lot of people aren't too careful about keeping their home Wi-Fi set with a good password. Somebody can actually hack into your data Wi-Fi at home. Then they can see everything that you're doing over your Wi-Fi. They can get your logins for, Netflix and stuff, but they can also get a lot more information from that as well. Commercial data hacks, like we said, if there's a business or a company that you have purchased something with or that you have an account with, and they happen to have a data breach, you're going to lose data that way. And again, government data theft. The Social Security Department and actually the IRS have both had issues before with people trying to get into those and actually accessing some data. So we have to be mindful that that data is out there and it's vulnerable too. There's also people that do something called data mining. That is where they go to, they're collecting information from a large group of people, whether it's from people who sign up for a service, people that sign up for an email. They are collecting that information and then sometimes they're selling it. Sometimes this is legitimate. This is why you need to look through those acceptance forms before you click accept, because a lot of times they're allowed to share that data with affiliated companies. So any other company that the parent company owns, they can share that data with. So you want to be sure who you're sharing that with, because then that's another third party that has access to your information. Another way we lose our data is through viruses, malware, and software. We have to be super careful about what we open, what we click on, and what we access out there. You don't just have to go to a website anymore and click download on something to get a virus. You can click on any link and get a virus. So we're going to have to watch for things like those "your computer is infected" messages or the pop-ups that say there's something wrong with your computer and you have to call this number right away or click this link right away. Those are hard to ignore because we're in the middle of doing something and suddenly it's on the screen. How do you get past that? There's also videos, games, and other downloaded media that can have viruses attached to them. Emails, texts can be sent to you that are not from the person they purport to be from. There's a link in there that you click on, and suddenly you've given them access to your device. Phishing and impersonation is, I think, again, one of the most insidious forms of privacy threats and where you can lose your data, where you can lose your identity online. This means phishing is phony plus phishing, those two words together. It means somebody is fishing for information and then they are using that to be a phony representative of something. So you can have personal phishing. That would be somebody contacting you and telling you had an aunt or uncle that passed away and they've left you money. You need to contact me so we can get that money to you. oh, but you need to pay $500 in advance to actually get access to that. Romance and friendship scams are probably the saddest version of all of these because it involves somebody finding out information about a person and then contacting them online and pretending to be friends with them or pretending to be romantically interested in them. And slowly they will gain the person's confidence and then they start asking them for money or other assets. And it can be very, very hard for somebody who's already formed an emotional attachment to someone to understand that this might be a fraud. So this can be a really, really sad way that people will lose money and data. There's also different accounts. People can send you an email or text saying there's a problem with your credit card. Click here to fix it. As soon as you click, you have let them access your device or you've gotten a virus on your device. So those are really, really tough to pick out sometimes. They've gotten much better about them. They've also gotten much more personal about them. They'll find out where somebody lives or where somebody works, and they'll send you a message saying that you received a speeding ticket, on the street right by where you work, and that here's the link to pay your ticket. And most people are going to be like, oh man, I must have been speeding. And they'll click on that, and suddenly they've given somebody access to their information. There's also things where you'll see fake websites. Somebody will set up, we'll go over this in a minute, but somebody will set up a website that is very similar to another well-known website. And people just kind of click on it because they see that first part of the web address and they don't think to check and see what it's actually directing them to. There's a good example of that where whitehouse.gov, G-O-V, is a government website for the US White House. But about 30 years ago, in the infancy of the internet, whitehouse.com was a different website that had a lot of scantily clad people, we'll put it that way. People would inadvertently type in whitehouse.com. It would be like, what happened? How did I get here? How is this information on my screen? All they did was either click on the wrong link or they typed in the wrong address. So you have to be mindful when you're actually accessing different services and different pages about what you're accessing. And again, charities can be used to collect fake money. People can set up fake GoFundMe accounts. People can pretend to be something like, Hands Across America or whatever. They can choose a particular charity, pretend to be them, and out of the goodness of your heart, you'll be donating. But if you don't verify, you could just be handing a criminal money. There's also investment scams, lots and lots of investment scams. A lot of people want to try to play the market, so they'll sign up for different accounts. That's another way that people can get into your bank information, to your social security number. A lot of people have decided to try out Bitcoin, and there are thousands of fake Bitcoin sites out there. So it's really something that you have to be very cautious about what you're visiting and verify where you're visiting before you go there. And prizes and awards. A lot of times you'll get an email saying you won the lottery, and it says click right here, and it'll even have the Illinois Lottery logo on it. It'll look very official. And if you happen to have played the lottery that week, you'll be like, oh, well, I'll click here. You have to make sure that the link it's directing you to is actually the Illinois Lottery. It's an easy way for them to scam people. And then there's threats, bribes, or extortion. These are things like cyberbullying, where somebody has somebody's email address or text number, and they are sending them threatening or harassing messages. It's where somebody manages to hack into a device and they say that they have pictures of someone, or they're going to tell your boss, they're going to tell your husband, your wife, or your children. That develops shame in people, and shame is one of the number one reasons why people don't report when they have data loss or identity theft, because they're embarrassed that they fell for it, or they're embarrassed that they got mixed up in something. So let's talk a little bit about being a victim by association. Now, this again is organizational and third-party data loss. This is the kind of data loss you cannot prevent. This is the one where you're signing up for health accounts, you've sent in your taxes with the IRS, you've made a Gmail account, you have shared that information with a company, and they have been hacked and have lost your data. So those are the types that you can't protect yourself from directly. There are steps we'll go over in a little bit where you can learn how to keep those risks to a minimum, but it's going to be something that you cannot change your password and prevent. So government records are a huge, huge target internationally for scammers. There's a ton of information in there. People would love to get their hands on that. As an example, Little John was a hacker that targeted wealthy people's tax records between 2018 and 2020. They used it to go in and find out what wealthy people's investments were, what companies and holdings they had, even things that might have been under a trust that wasn't directly under their name. And it allowed them to be able to target wealthy people for solicitation for different investment options. It was very dangerous for people. And again, nobody knew about it right away. It was something that was happening slowly over time. There was a get transcript breach in 2015 that you would click get your tax transcript on an email and it would steal your information. It would take your loan amounts and they would be able to access your tax records. If you sign into the IRS website, sometimes it will ask you how much do you owe on your mortgage as something that you can type in, or who's your mortgage through that you can type in or choose so that they can verify that it's you. Well, people can find out where your mortgage is through. That's public information. So all they need to do is get a hold of one of your statements and suddenly they're able to sign into your IRS account. There's business and commercial records that get stolen, things like passwords or account logins. Yahoo in 2017 had a huge data breach where they lost 3 billion customer profiles. And that included names, addresses, email addresses, and recovery addresses. So even if you had more than one account, they were also gaining some access to those other accounts as well. LinkedIn in 2021 lost 700 million LinkedIn accounts. That's a lot. And they were selling them, whoever hacked them was selling them on the dark web. And they were going for millions and millions of dollars. This is valuable information. So that's why hackers and data thieves and identity thieves are so keen to get it. They can get a lot out of this data when they get a hold of it. And then there's nonprofit records. People will try to hack nonprofits. Nonprofits tend to have less robust security because they run on a tighter budget. They usually are a smaller operation, but they can hack into a nonprofit's records and they'd be able to find out what donors were donating, how much they donated. There was a hack that happened in 2020 where scammers were able to get into a nonprofit charity's website and they were able to redirect them to a Chinese scam page. So people thought that they were still interacting with this charity, but it was a fake page that they had redirected them to. So in those cases, it's very hard sometimes to tell that you've actually been sent someplace that you're not supposed to go to. The number one way you can verify before you click on a link that it's something you should or shouldn't use is to hover over the link. If it's on your phone, you can actually put your finger down on it and it will tell you what the web address is. If you're on your computer, you can hover your mouse over it. It will tell you what the web address for that link is. If it doesn't look like the link you normally go to, like if it's suddenly google.us.com instead of google.com, you know that you should not be clicking on that. Google doesn't have an extension like that. They're just google.com. So those are one way that you can be mindful before you click on a link. But the rest of these are something that somebody else is going to have to take care of for you. So third-party data loss is when we've signed up with a company, we have an account with them, but they are sharing our data for marketing purposes with other companies. This is where we may not even know that they have access to our data. You're clicking agree or accept on an account and Google has now shared it with YouTube because they're affiliates. So suddenly, if YouTube gets hacked, you don't know, did they share my information with them? The odds are they probably did, and now you have to be very cautious about that. Um, Anytime you hear about a mass hack where somebody's gotten into 700 million records from LinkedIn, it's always a good idea to go back and look at the security in your passwords. Make sure that you've changed them recently. A lot of times those hacks happened like 6 months ago before we even hear about it. So they'll be using possibly old passwords, but you want to make sure you go back and make sure no other accounts are using those old passwords. So anytime you hear about big data loss, it's possible through third-party shared data that your data still might be exposed. So it's always a good idea to change your passwords every 3 months. And I know that sounds ridiculous. Most of us have probably over 100 passwords for different things that we've accessed before. But you should, each time you sign into your account, particularly if it's something you don't use that often, it's a good idea to change your password. Just keep a record of it. I have a file that I keep on my phone that is password protected and thumbprint protected that I can access my passwords from. You can use something like a password manager. I know some of us have tried password managers and they were a little cumbersome, but they are definitely something that's useful for storing those passwords and changing them. But we can also sign up for two-factor authentication. Again, that's going to be where they'll send you a text to your registered phone number when you go to sign in. You enter your login and your password, and then you also have to click this link or type in this code as an additional step to access your information. That just gives one more layer of security that's going to be harder for anybody to get past. So again, organizational breaches are the type of data loss we can't prevent. We are relying on the people that we've given that data to keep it safe. So awareness is going to be the primary way that you can keep yourself from being affected by these. You're going to want to stay informed, listen to the news, find out, check the technology headlines. Has there been a data breach? A lot of times there'll be smaller data breaches that are not headline news, but it'll be reported in different technology feeds or technology news. It's a good idea to check those. If it's a huge data loss, you're going to hear about it on the regular news as well. Change your password. If somebody announces that they've had a data loss or you get a letter in the mail saying that there's been a data breach, go in and change your password right away. That's the first thing you should do is immediately go and change your password. If you don't have two-factor authentication set up on that account, you should set it up immediately. Most accounts have that option now to have that two-factor authentication. If you've used that same password for that account on other accounts, a lot of people like to reuse passwords. Make sure you go in and change those passwords too. It's easier to have just one or two passwords that you use, but that makes it so that all somebody has to do is hack into one account and then they can get into everything. So always try to have separate, unique passwords for each account. You can use things like phrases. Actually, phrases are one of the best ways to come up with a unique password that somebody's not going to easily guess. You can look around your room. You can say like leaves couch mouse 76 exclamation point. That's something that somebody's probably not going to guess outright. You can change up the capitalization in there. All of those will be ways that you can make up something that's not impossible to remember. It's not just a bunch of gobbledygook that you have to type in each character because you just aren't sure what it is. But it's an easy way to make a unique password that's going to be hard to guess. I know other people will use song lyrics, like they'll use, like the first three words of a particular song. As long as you're not using something from your favorite band, that should work. But if somebody's on social media and they've seen that your favorite band, happens to be the Eagles, and you're using Eagles songs, that's going to be easier to guess. And again, make sure you're using that two-factor authentication. You can actually download two different services. Microsoft has an authenticator and Google has an authenticator. Authenticator apps, you register your your login with them for that particular site. And when you're signing in, it will ask you for a code from that app. So you would go to your Authenticator app on your phone, every 90 seconds it generates a new code. So it's constantly changing. It would be almost impossible for a hacker to get those codes because they're constantly changing. So those Authenticator apps are something that you can get for free and install on your device and use that as another layer of security for accessing your accounts. So even if you find out that your data has been stolen or that somebody's gotten a hold of your data, do not panic. Panic is the worst possible thing you can do because when we panic, we do foolish things. We act without thinking. So we want to make sure if something like this happens, we get a letter saying there's been a hack, we hear a news story that there's been a hack, don't panic. Take a deep breath. You're going to want to go ahead and start changing your passwords, particularly with the account that you believe was hacked first, and then go back on any other accounts that might use a similar password. Go back and change that information. It's also a good idea to go in and change your login name. A lot of us use just our email address, the beginning of it as our login name. That's super easy for someone to guess. Our email addresses are easy to find, so it's easy to guess that first login part. If we go in and have a more unique login name, that's going to be harder for someone else to guess. You also want to make sure, again, sign up for that two-factor authentication, and then you're going to want to take additional steps to protect your credit and data. You can sign up for a credit monitoring service. You can regularly check your credit report, and we're going to talk about more of those methods in a little bit. But there are additional steps we can take to kind of freeze what our information is and prevent other people from getting it. All right, scammers, hackers, and thieves. Oh my. This is where we are participating in interacting with something and we make a mistake. This is where it's a human error and it's our human error. Either we have signed into a dubious website, we've clicked on a link in an email because we thought we got a speeding ticket. Those are ways that we are actively participating in giving somebody else our information. So this happens when we reuse passwords or we rearrange the same password over and over again. It will be very easy for somebody that's targeting us to get into all of our accounts that way. People will often keep their passwords on a sheet of paper that they have out on the desk next to them when they're using a computer. That can be super dangerous too, because somebody just has to walk past you and they'll see your passwords. Leaving other things out on a table. I have seen people in a public library leave their checkbook out, leave their banking statement out on the counter because as people, we like to think we can trust the people around us, but we don't know who everyone is, especially in a public place. So we should make sure we're keeping that type of information close to us, make sure we're not laying it out where somebody can see it or where somebody could pick it up. We also want to make sure, again, we're not clicking on unknown links in emails or texts. You want to make sure that you're checking to see who is sending you that before you click on it. One of the number one things you can do is if you are suddenly you get an email from anyone, from your bank, your credit card, or you get a text from your bank or your credit card saying there's a problem with your account, contact us right away, click this link. Don't do that. Anything that is a legitimate business will allow you to contact them yourself, not through that link. So you will go back and look at the back of your credit card and call the number on the back of your credit card. You'll call the number on your bank statement. This will allow you to access them instead of them trying to access you through a text or an email. This makes sure that there's that additional layer of you doing some research before you access information because you're panicked. It says something's wrong with your account. Also, do not read out your passwords. I have heard people do this at the airport and at other places because they're trying to buy a ticket or they're trying to sign into something, and they'll say them out loud. Again, especially if you use the same password on different accounts, it is very easy for somebody to just sit there and listen, and they're going to pick up on that. Do not send your passwords by email or text. You want to make sure that that's not something you do because if you get hacked, somebody's going to have access to that. Um, Make sure you're not forgetting about accounts that you've opened. A lot of times we'll sign up for more than one email address, but we end up, for whatever reason, using one email address more than another. We have, in a sense, abandoned that account. Well, if we're not checking that account to see what's going on with it, somebody else could be using it and they could be posing as us. So if we open accounts, we want to make sure that if we're not using them, we close them, that we go through and we say, cancel this account. I don't want it there anymore. And finally, we are social people. We want to reach out to each other. A lot of people fall for romance or friendship scams. Again, that's where somebody's reaching out to you, pretending to be someone else, and they're going to try to pull on your heartstrings to make sure that they can get your confidence, and then they're going to try to take money from you. All right, so phishing, as I said earlier, is a combination of the words phony and phishing. This means that somebody is trying to get information from you by posing as someone else or by sending you an email that they want you to click on. They're contacting you and trying to get your information from you because you don't realize that they're a hacker or a scammer. So again, email, text, or call that you are not expecting from one of the companies that you have an account with, do not talk with them, hang up, and call the company back on their regular number. If you don't know what the company's regular contact number is, call the library. We can look it up for you and tell you what the official contact number is for that agency. Don't ever have somebody tell you that they're contacting you because there's something wrong with your IRS account, that there's something wrong with your social security number. A big one that is used against a lot of elderly people is your social security number has been suspended because you didn't pay something. They don't suspend social security numbers. That doesn't happen. And this is just somebody trying to cause panic in someone because they think someone has their social security number. So you want to make sure that anything like that that you're contacted for, the IRS is never going to call you. They will only return your call. If the IRS needs to get in touch with you, they're going to send you a letter every time, or they're going to have somebody process serve you. Somebody will come to the door and serve you with papers. So make sure when you're contacted by somebody that's pretending to be from a government agency, make sure you go back and contact them yourself, because you don't want to be handing over information to people because you're afraid of what the government can do. We want to watch out for pop-up windows or lock screens where it has a phone number. This is the scam that's been going on for years. You'll be on your computer and suddenly there's this blue screen that pops up and it says, your computer is infected with a virus. Click here to fix it, or call this number to fix it. Those are almost always a scam. There's nothing that your antivirus software is going to do that is going to make that kind of a window pop up. So anytime you see something like that on a device, the best thing you can do is, if there's no way to back out of it, restart the device. That gives your antivirus software a chance to capture that virus and isolate it so it doesn't infect your entire device. Again, watch out for those fake emails or websites, again, like google.net, irs.com, or redcross.com. Those are common services, and a lot of times we don't look at that little .edu or .com. You want to make sure if it's a government address that it's going to have .gov at the end for federal websites. If it's going to be an educational site like a college or a university, they're going to have edu at the end. Info is also a common one used now amongst nonprofits and libraries. It'll be .info. So make sure you're verifying that it's the legitimate site before you click on it, respond to it, or go to it. Watch out for those phony job listings. That is a huge way that people fish for information. Do not apply to a company that is asking you for detailed personal information before you even get to talk to them. It should be a basic resume. Do not have your address on your resume. Do not have your phone number on your resume when you send it. Only have your email address on it. It's actually a really good idea when you're job searching to open a brand new email account and have that be the email account that you use when you're searching for jobs. That way, you know everything that comes into that account is job associated, and you can review everything without giving away your regular email information to somebody that may or may not be a legitimate employer. And again, watch out for those fake charities, investment options, or sweepstakes. Now, romance scams are a social phishing or impersonation. And as I said before, these are the saddest of the data breaches and data loss. This is where somebody contacts somebody, they've searched social media and they've seen that somebody had a loss recently. Maybe they lost their partner, they lost their pet, or they lost a child, and they know that the person is hurting and they're probably lonely. They will reach out to them and say, oh, I think you have a nice smile. Hope you have a nice day. And then the next day they'll say something else to you. And all of a sudden, they're telling you how interested they are in you. Maybe you have a lot of things in common together. You have the same hobbies. Your pets have the same name. All kinds of things in common. And suddenly they're very attracted to you, and you're finding yourself very attracted to them. This could be a romance or friendship scam. Now, relationship scams are going to be things where they're reaching out to you most of the time. It's not going to be something that you've necessarily done. It's almost always that they reach out to you first, but it absolutely can be that you click on a profile and contact somebody that's not a real profile. What to look for when somebody is doing a personal scam against you. They're going to ask open-ended questions. It will be things like, so where did you go to college? And then they'll let you elaborate on that. Or where was your last vacation? And they'll let you elaborate on that, because you will divulge personal information while you're talking to them. Again, they're going to pretend that they have a lot in common with you because they've already gone and looked at your social media to see what you're into. They will suddenly claim that they have an instant and deep attraction to you or a deep connection to you. They might even say that they're not attracted to you, just I feel like I've known you my whole life, those kinds of things. They'll be successful, they'll be attractive, they'll be very virtuous, they'll love their mother and take care of her all the time. They will be an excellent father. They're widowed, or, they've got children that they had adopted. They're going to be somebody that is impressive. This particularly happens to people that are over 60. The reason is that even though younger people are online more often and actually get scammed more often than older people tend to lose more money because they have more money in most cases. So when they're targeting men and women over the age of 60, they're looking for retirees that they know have a retirement account. Their houses are probably paid for or mostly paid for, and they're targeting them because they have the funds. At first, they're not going to request anything. They're just going to tell you, how much they enjoy talking to you. But all of a sudden, they're going to need money for something. They lost their passport and they need to replace their passport. Or their flight got canceled and they need to book another flight. Now, those are the kinds of things where we want to try to help someone. You want to help somebody that's in distress. Most of the time, though, if your flight's canceled, they're going to try to book you on another flight. You're not going to need to pay for another one. You're going to already have had that flight paid for. They're going to ask you to pay for things like that with gift cards. They're going to ask you to go to the store and buy a bunch of Apple gift cards to pay for your Social Security bill that's overdue, or to pay your back IRS taxes. There is not a company out there that accepts another organization's cards as payment, ever. Anybody that starts asking you to go to a Bitcoin ATM to get them money, you put your cash in there and it's buying them Bitcoin. That is not a good thing. Most merchants do not accept Bitcoin. And the ones that do are sometimes a little shady. So if anybody's asking you to buy gift cards for them, that's a red flag. If they're asking you to get Bitcoin for them, that's a red flag. And that goes both for a personal contact and a business contact. Any company that's asking you that, you need to be wary that maybe you're not talking to the right company. Another huge thing that you'll see in friendship and romance scams is that the person is working for an oil company. They'll be working for an airline. Maybe they do work for the government or they're in the military. It's going to be something where they have a job that would require them to go different places. And suddenly they're going to tell you that they're trapped there for whatever reason. They lost their passport, or they're requiring them to pay some kind of fine before they can leave the country. Suddenly things are politically a little dicey there and they want to get out and they can't. That's not the kind of things that actually happen in those situations. If somebody is a doctor with Doctors Without Borders and they're someplace and they lose their passport, Doctors Without Borders is going to help them get their passport. If somebody's in the military and they lose their passport, the military is going to help them get their passport back. If somebody works for an oil company and they're digging a well someplace, in the middle of Africa, and suddenly they're saying that they need your help, that company is going to assist them. So most of the time, they're trying to put you into a panic situation where you need to help them immediately. And that's going to be where you're going to make a mistake. It's going to be somebody you've developed a real friendship for or a real affection for. And they're suddenly telling you they are desperate for your help. A lot of people fall for this. And again, people fall for it because they're lonely or because they're missing something in their lives. These are legitimate reasons to go online and open different social media accounts or to open different dating accounts. Just be careful who you're interacting with and don't give anybody money for anything that you're doing online. It's just a good practice. Again, payment scams, they're going to call you and tell you that, again, you have an outstanding warrant. I've actually had this call myself. I got a phone call here and it said that Cook County Sheriff's Department on the caller ID. And I answered the phone and they told me that I had a warrant out for my arrest and that this phone call was serving me. And I laughed and hung up the phone because number one, you can't arrest somebody over the phone. They don't present warrants over the phone. And you can't be served with any kind of legal papers over the phone. That has to be done in person. This was clearly somebody who had cloned a number, who had managed to change the caller ID to be a legitimate organization, and then was making threats. They were going to ask me to go out and get a gift card so that I could pay for this warrant to be quashed. You can't pay to have a warrant quashed. That's just not something that happens. So make sure if you're reached out to from any kind of a government agency, they are not going to contact you first unless it's in writing. Really, they're not. They're not going to call you and say, let's talk about your account. That's not what happens. They will call you back if you've filled out a form and sent it to them or you contacted them about an issue. They will absolutely call you back, but they are not going to call you to just start talking about something that you have not initiated. Always make sure if you are on a call, a text, an email that seems dicey, just back away and contact them through your normal means. So again, common traits of all data theft, whether it's organizational data theft or it's personal data theft, whether it's phishing scams, it's panic and fear. Scammers are trying to make you feel terrified because when you're terrified, you are going to act without thinking. You're going to click on something immediately because, oh no, my computer is infected. Or you're going to click on a link because, oh no, my credit card has been hacked. They're telling you that there's an immediate danger and you have to act now. And that can be, again, through a phone call. They're going to try to get you to react without thinking. So anytime you are online, anytime that you receive a phone call, do not jump just because somebody told you to jump. You want to make sure that you are taking your time and verifying everything that they're asking you. If you get one of those pop-ups or another roadblock on your device, you want to make sure that you're taking the time to back out of that, maybe contact HP if you have a Hewlett-Packard and you have a warranty with them. They can tell you if there's something wrong with your computer. 9 times out of 10, though, when you restart your device, that app, that little pop-up is going to be gone. So again, threats equal panic. And if anybody ever threatens you online for any reason, you need to report that. It doesn't matter if they're saying that they're going to put out your data, they're going to release your social security number, they're going to put your pictures out. or they're a common scam in the last like 15, 20 years has been a cloned phone call. Somebody finds out from a video online what somebody in your family's voice sounds like. They record that and they can clone that. They can then call you and pretend that they are that person and they need help. This actually happened to my in-laws. My daughter was 12 and she had been at their house the day before, and they got a phone call the next day saying, Grandpa, I'm here in Germany and I lost my passport. Can you send me $500? And it took them a minute. They actually started, trying to give them the credit card number, and then we're like, wait a minute. She's not in Germany. She's 12, and we just saw her last night. But because it was somebody that they cared about deeply, they were willing to get out there and help them immediately. So be careful. Make sure if somebody's contacting you about some massive thing that they need you to send a ton of money for, you need to verify that first. Tell them you'll call them back on the regular phone number on their cell phone that you usually call them at. If they say you can't, they took my cell phone, what police station are you at? What agency are you at? I'll call that and I'll make sure that it's you. Um, Again, nobody is going to call you over the phone until you have a warrant. They can't serve you that way. And they're not going to contact you and say, cold turkey. It's going to be a follow-up from something that you contacted them at. When hackers and scammers get stood up to, that's when they start threatening you because they know that you're onto them, and their only next tool then is to make you afraid. So never, never, never deal with somebody that is threatening you. You hang up the phone and you call the police. You give them the phone number, the email address, the text address. You file a report on that immediately. So again, don't panic. You're going to stop and think about what you're doing before you give any information, before you click that link, before you answer anything. You're going to make sure that you contact that company, agency, or person through their regular contact information. Any legitimate company or person is going to give you a second to call them back. It's not going to be life or death if I don't get this $500 right this second. Always take your time, go back and make sure who you're dealing with. So let's talk about how we can prevent data loss. We've talked about all the different ways that somebody can come at us and try to get a hold of our information, but how can we go through and prevent losing our data? Now, on our personal accounts, we want to, again, practice good password management. You want to make sure that you have unique passwords. The example on the picture here with the password on a Post-it note, absolutely don't do that. We've all done it before, but you want to make sure you're not leaving your passwords out like that. Don't reuse your passwords. Make sure each one is unique. Try to make it something that you can almost remember because it's a phrase, but it's something somebody else isn't going to guess. Make sure you're using capitals and small letters in your passwords. That's important too. Make sure that you're keeping your home Wi-Fi password enabled and that you're keeping the password safe. You can actually go in and change your Wi-Fi password as well. Not a bad idea to do that periodically as well. If you can, especially when you're doing things like your taxes online or you're working with the IRS or Social Security online, try to use a VPN or a virtual private network. That way your data is much more secure. Some of the services I'm going to talk about in a couple of minutes offer services like that, where you can actually get a VPN that you can sign up for. You click a button on your device, it enables it. Suddenly you have a much more secure connection than you did previously. Also make sure that you're, again, verifying anything. And when you contact companies or individuals, again, it needs to be over a verified phone number, address, web address. Do not fall for things where they're sending you something as a solicitation. Hackers are going to solicit you. A legitimate company is not. So I want to make sure that when it comes to social media that we're using extra care. Social media gives away far more information than most of us realize. First of all, you want to read through those user agreements. You want to make sure, am I giving this particular social media application ownership of my pictures? Now, there's been a common scam that goes around where I hereby don't give Facebook permission to use my photos. You were going to post that. That's not legitimate. Making a post like that isn't going to change anything. But they may have a clause in their user agreement that they can use some of your images for advertisement, that they can use it as like something that they can use in a video where they're presenting what their website has to offer. You want to make sure what you're agreeing to when you sign up for those. Always make sure when you are posting things on social media that you are careful about what you're posting. People love to post their vacation shots, but then people know you're not home. It makes your house a target. People love to post when there's a big family event. Somebody's been born or somebody's gotten married. That is giving them information about somebody's new name. Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so, I'm the first person to introduce them. That sounds like a wonderful thing to do, and you want to celebrate your family members, but maybe post the pictures and don't post the names. Or be careful what pictures you're showing in general. A lot of those impersonation scams and the romance scams will take nice pictures of nice people and they will pretend to be them online. And these people will have no idea that somebody is using their name, their likeness, and wreaking havoc in other people's lives. Make sure you're not sharing too much with anyone. We all like to have pictures of our pets online. That's why you should not be using your pets' names in your passwords because that will be very easy to guess. Don't use your grandkids' names in your passwords because they're probably going to have their name on your social media at some point too. You want to also make sure that you never post a picture of someone else on social media without getting their okay first. There's a lot of people for various reasons that don't want their picture on social media. And if you post it, you're just doing it because you want to post a nice picture of you with them. But it puts their image out there where somebody else can potentially use it, particularly with small children. You want to be careful what you're sharing because there are people out there that could take that and use it for something not good. So watch out for those fake websites. There have been quite a few recently that have been going around, and these look so much better than they used to. These can look like they are absolutely coming from the company that they purport to be from. So if you are getting a solicitation email or a solicitation text, you should always hover over the email address, hover over the web address to see what it actually is directing us to. That's not a legitimate website. I'm not going to want to click that. You're also going to want to make sure that when you're accessing a website, that it has this lock at the beginning of the browser. This lock means that it's a hypertext transfer protocol secured, is what that stands for, that HTTPS. And this means they have an added layer of security for, whoops, I didn't mean to go forward. They have an added layer of security for their website. So you'll see the padlock or you will see the HTTPS. That means they have an extra layer of security, that they have a certificate that they're keeping, that they can keep a closer eye on their website. You want to watch out for any website that requires you to submit things like your social security number in order to use it. This one seems like it would be kind of a no-brainer, but a lot of people will go to sign up for a banking site and will hand that over because they're used to handing that over to banks. Do not do that. You want to actually make sure that you are using a legitimate site through that bank before you give them anything, and make sure it's a real bank too. It's always a good idea to look up reviews for any company that you're interacting with. You can actually use services like Trustpilot. That's something you can Google on the internet, what a company's name is, and Trustpilot, and they give a ranking based on different reviews, both from Trustpilot and from other people submitting reviews, that will tell you what the quality of a particular company or website is. It's basically saying whether or not other people trust it. So you can use Trustpilot to see, is this a well-regarded company, or do people have a bad experience with them? You can also use things like library databases. Now, I know that the Round Lake Area Library has A to Z databases as one of the databases they have access to. You, as a Round Lake Area Library cardholder, can access A to Z databases from anywhere with your library card. You can actually use that database to look up a company, and it will give you the official company web address, the official company phone number. It'll even tell you who their top executives are. So you can get that verified information from A to Z databases or from Trustpilot, and they will tell you, yes, this is how you contact them. Yes, this is a verified profile. You are not reaching out to somebody that has a nothing profile. Another way you can protect yourself from anything, from shopping fraud, from romance scams, is using a reverse image search. Now, Google has one of the easiest reverse image searches out there. When you look at the Google screen, you have that bar, the search bar right in the middle of the page. And if you look way over here, there's a little camera icon. And that is where you can do a reverse image search. When you click there, it's going to take you to a page that says drop or drag or upload an image here. If you've come across a social media profile and you want to find out, is this person real? Is this an original picture that's been posted? Or has this been shared other places on the internet? You can actually drag that picture there, or you can download it and then put it into the image search. I recommend that everybody not necessarily download images though from social media. You never know if somebody's attached a virus to it. You can use something called the snipping tool. If you're on a PC, you hold down the Shift button, hold down the Windows button, and hold down the S button at the same time. It gives you a little plus mark, and you can draw an outline around the image, and then you can upload it into the Google reverse image search. It's looking for the contents of the picture, so you don't necessarily need the metadata for it. So it's a good idea to search for the pictures that you're seeing on social media to see if they're legitimate. Or with products, a lot of times we're seeing a lot of AI advertisements out there, and you're seeing a picture that looks like this wonderful product and it's only $10, or it's this mug that really looks like a stack of books. But when you get it, it's like a picture of a stack of books on the side of a mug, or it's a printed sweater instead of a knitted sweater. You can use reverse image search to tell you how long that picture's been going around and where it originated from. If you are interacting with someone online and you do a reverse image search and it's found on 10,000 websites, you know that's a stolen picture. This is not real. Same thing with a product. If you do a reverse image search and it finds it on 500 websites, it's more than likely not a legitimate product. So you might want to consider using some data protection services. Now, I'm not recommending any of these specifically to you, but it's always a good idea to have some kind of antivirus software on your devices. And it's a good idea to consider having a credit monitoring service. Now, you don't have to have a credit monitoring service. You can monitor your credit report on your own. You can visit Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. You can create a free account with each of those, and you can track your credit report there. You can also do things like using a VPN when you're accessing anything. That can help keep you from getting different viruses and things too, and that will keep your credit reports clear. So you might want to consider, though, using something like McAfee or Norton. They do have combination services. Norton and LifeLock merged, and now you can get Norton and LifeLock together. So LifeLock is personal account monitoring, and it's your credit monitoring. And it's also, because it has Norton with it, it's also going to be your antivirus as well. And it also includes a VPN. All right, so I've been scammed. I've lost my data. Somebody's gotten into my bank account and I've lost $10,000 and I really am desperate. I need that money back. What should I do? Who do I call? Will I ever get my money back? What will my family and friends say? They're going to tell me I was stupid for clicking on that link, or they're going to tell me I was stupid for falling for this romance scam. How do I go forward here? So again, don't panic. Panic is going to be the number one way that you are going to give away information that you don't need to. If you feel that you're a victim of a scam or you feel like somebody's trying to scam you, don't panic. Take your time. You're going to want to start from the top and take care of this issue. So the first thing you're going to want to do is if you found out that somebody's gotten a hold of your data, you've been part of a data breach, somebody's stolen money out of one of your accounts, you want to go and change your passwords immediately. You start with the account that you know has been affected, and then you do all of the other accounts that are associated with that. So if you have a bank account and it also uses your email as part of your contact information, you're going to want to change both of those passwords. You want to make sure that you're going through and making a very challenging password. You can also, again, turn on two-factor authentication. Somebody won't be able to sign into your account then unless they have your cell phone or they don't have access to your email. But the first step is always going to be to go in and change your passwords. Next, you're going to want to freeze and review your credit reports. Now, you can do this through a credit monitoring service, or you can do this on your own. Now, you can create a free account with Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. You are entitled to have a free account with them. And through that free account, you can get a copy of your credit report once a year, and you can freeze your own credit file. This is really important. If you have been the victim of any kind of data theft, if you've been a victim of any kind of identity theft, you are going to want to freeze your credit reports. This is the number one way you can make sure that nobody's using that information to open other accounts in your name. And you can do that for free through each of those services. You create an account and there's going to be an option with a little slider button usually, and you can freeze and unfreeze it from there. When you freeze it, it means nobody can open a new account. Now that includes you. If you go in someplace and try to open a new account, you're going to have to sign into those services and unfreeze it first. But it's going to keep that information safe for the entire time that it's frozen. They cannot check your credit report. They cannot access your credit report. So when you go over your credit report, you're going to want to check for any accounts that you don't recognize. You want to make sure that the information there is all accurate, the accounts are accurate, the contact information is accurate. If you see any account that you don't recognize, number one, you're going to contact the company that it's through and tell them that you believe that's a fraudulent account. You're also going to report it to the individual credit reporting services and let them know that you're seeing a fraudulent account there. And they can start taking steps to block that access and remove it from your credit report. Next, you want to file a police report or a government report. This is also super important. A lot of us don't necessarily want to have to talk to the police any more than we need to. Not saying they're bad people, just it kind of causes anxiety for some people. But we are going to want to contact the local police department or sheriff's department if somebody steals our data. If we're a regular data breach, you probably don't need to contact them from that. But if you know somebody is using your information, somebody has gotten access to your financial accounts, or somebody has opened an account in your name, you want to make sure that you file a local police report immediately. The reason is this has a paper trail then showing when you realized that this account was breached. And when you notified the authorities, you can then go back in court and prove, hey, I found out that this was breached here. Anything that happened after that, I can absolutely not be accused of doing. And they can also go through and investigate if other people have experienced the same kind of data theft. A lot of times, data thieves will concentrate on a specific area for a time. And so multiple people will experience the same kind of hacks or the same kind of phishing where they're trying to get somebody to click on a link in order to grab their information. You should also file a report with the FBI Cybercrimes Division. There's a link right here. They call it ic3.gov. They call it IC3 because they want to make sure you're, being mindful and keeping a watchful eye out there for information and reporting it to them. But from there, you can file a report with their Cybercrimes Division. That gives the FBI the opportunity to see if this is going across different state lines, if it's a trend, and give them as much information about the hack or the person that you can. Give them phone numbers that they contacted you on. You want to make sure that you're giving them the email address that they used or the texting number that they used. All of this is important because it will help you, and it's also going to help other people going forward. Finally, you want to file a fraud report with the Federal Trade Commission. The FTC tracks all of this. They keep track of it. It's a lot of what ends up on that Consumer Sentinel report. You want to make sure that other people know that this is happening. You can probably do that report last of all of these steps, but you want to make sure that you're doing it. You want to make sure that you're filing that so that there can be ways that different companies can prevent these kinds of hacks, that different people can prevent it. You're giving that information. You're not giving them your personal info. You're just explaining what the circumstance was, what the experience was. And that will allow other people to be mindful. Now, this is a big one too. If you know that you've been a victim of any kind of identity theft, or you've been somebody that has had data released in a hack, you're going to want to apply for an IP PIN with the IRS. This is an identity protection PIN. And what it is I think it's 8 digits. It's a longer number that you have to utilize in order to access any of your information through the IRS. They use Identify Me, I believe is the service that they use to verify you. You have to upload like images of your driver's license and sometimes your passport, but it's a multi-step process to verify who you are. It's secure when you're applying for it. And then once you have this identity protection PIN, you can't file your taxes without it. You need to have it. Nobody else could file a fake tax return in your name and get your tax return. So if your information is out there and you know that it has been given out either through an individual hack or through an organizational hack, you want to make sure that you're signing up for that IRS PIN. The identity protection PIN is super important to protect yourself going forward. You can get it from the IRS website. If you just go to irs.gov, you can actually see there's like a fraud portion there and it will direct you right to it, or you can use the web address that I have right here. Now, subscribing to a credit monitoring service can make your life a lot simpler. You can go in, like I said, and check each of your credit reports yourself, and you can freeze and unfreeze your credit reports yourself. That's perfectly available and it's free. But there are other services out there, things like Aura or Identity Guard or LifeLock, that will allow you to provide them with a certain amount of information that they can then track. You can give them your credit card number and they will track to see if your credit card number shows up on the dark web. You can provide them with where your bank is from, and they'll be able to monitor if there's anything weird going on with your bank. You can also give limits to credit so that if suddenly there's a $10,000 purchase on your credit card, they're going to notify you about that. All of these make your life easier. It makes it easier to track what's going on, and it's adding another layer of protection. I do use one of these. I'm not going to tell you which one, but I definitely use one. It's worth it for me to have it. It comes with a VPN, so I can use that VPN service to have that virtual private network whenever I'm contacting one of my financial institutions. It comes with the credit monitoring and it has antivirus with it. So all of those are things that you're going to want to consider having, because it will keep your identity just that much safer. If somebody does get a hold of your information, you will know about it sooner and you'll be able to take action sooner. Now, another tool that you can use is a password manager. Password managers, some people like them, some people don't like them. They can be a little bit cumbersome to use. I know I have some experience with 1Password where it's not necessarily friendly, but password manager apps, though, will save all of your passwords in one place, and it's going to make all of that information accessible through one single password. It does use two-factor authentication, so you'll have that one password to get into all of your passwords, but you're also going to have your phone with you, or you'll have to have a physical key with you that you have to put into the device. It's going to generate unique passwords and store all of your passwords. So rather than you having to go back and change all of your passwords every 3 months, which is a good practice, it will do it for you. It will also generate gibberish passwords that are going to be next to impossible for anybody to guess. So that's the entire idea behind having a password manager. One of the problems of using a password manager is if you have personal accounts that you're saving passwords for, but then you also have like work accounts that you're saving passwords for. Do you need two services? Can you save those overlapping on the same service? There's a little bit of, different philosophies on that, whether or not you can use the personal and the business together. But still, even if you had one password manager for business and one password manager for your personal things, it would still only be two passwords that you would have to remember. So it's something to consider. If you are somebody that really doesn't like changing your passwords, you hate going and finding your passwords, a password manager could be really useful for you. And there's different services out there. Again, there's LifeLock. It's probably one of the best known services. LastPass is very well known. 1Password, NordPass, or McAfee. All of them offer a password manager app, and a lot of times it's offered in conjunction with other antivirus and credit monitoring software. So you could get all of those services through one package. So if you experience data loss, you are going to, number one, don't panic. You're going to take your time. You're going to go in and change your passwords, starting with the account that you know has been affected. Then you're going to go in and you're either going to sign in to each of the credit reporting services, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, and you're going to freeze your credit reports if they're not already frozen. You're going to file a police report. You're going to try to get an IP PIN from the IRS so that nobody can access that data. And then you're going to consider subscribing to a credit monitoring service or getting a password app or both. Those are the steps you want to take in that order when you experience data loss or data theft. Those are going to keep your data as safe as possible. We can be as careful as we want, or as careful as we can be when we're working on the internet or on our cell phones. But if somebody manages to hack into the device using technology that nobody has seen before, or that there isn't any protection for yet, all of those credit monitoring services, being able to freeze your credit reports, being able to file a report with the authorities, all of those are going to help you, and it's going to make the experience easier for you. It's not going to make the experience completely pain-free. Again, I've had my identity stolen before. Somebody tried to open a bank account in my name, and it's a pain in the neck. But because I had things like my credit report frozen, and because I looked at my credit report, and because I had one of the credit monitoring services, I was notified as soon as it happened, so I could stop it immediately. So it's really kind of a good idea to consider those things, or just be vigilant with the services that are free. So now, if you are looking for additional resources, it's a really good idea to start with the FTC. The Federal Trade Commission tracks a lot of this. They keep track of what the newest scam trends are, the ways people are trying to get information from people. Sometimes it'll be ways that you really, really wouldn't think of. Again, the traffic ticket one, they got me with that one at work. It was a test with our antivirus software, but they got me because I very well could have gotten a ticket on the street in front of the library. I don't know. So it's something that was legitimate enough to me that I clicked on it. And then I had to do the activities online to prove that I knew how to not click on links like that. But going to the Federal Trade Commission is going to let you see what those trends are. It's going to go over the steps that we just went over if you happen to have your identity stolen. And it's going to reassure you by giving you different tools like what we discussed tonight to manage your personal data profile. Again, you can also go to the FBI. They have their Be Crime Smart area. This deals with both online scams and other scams like physical scams. You can look those up there. They will track them as well. The Internal Revenue Service Identity Theft Central, that's where you're going to get that IP pin, where you can make sure nobody can access your IRS data. And you can also contact the Illinois Attorney General's Identity Theft Hotline. They actually have a wealth of information on their page. It's worth visiting it. They have a lot of information there, and they have a lot of information that might be soothing to you if you happen to be a victim of this. It will walk you through the steps that we just talked about. And to contact your area law enforcement, you're going to want to reach out to your local police department. So we've got the Round Lake Police Department phone number, Round Lake Beach Police. If you happen to be in an unincorporated area, you should contact the Lake County Sheriff. They will take that police report for you. And just a few additional resources to take a look at. That Federal Trade Commission Sentinel Data Book is wonderful to take a look through. There's so much data in it, and a lot of it is in graphs, so it makes it easy to absorb. The link for that is listed here, but it's on the ftc.gov webpage. There's the AARP Scam and Identity Theft page. AARP does a lot to try to train people to watch out for scams, to know what to look for, and know what to do if your identity is stolen. They're a wonderful resource. I really recommend looking at their scams and frauds page. Kaspersky is a well-known antivirus software package, but they have a consumer resource center that talks about how you can prevent your own identity theft. There's the Safety Net Project. This is something that's a national project where they collect data, much like the FTC does, but they collect data on different trends and how you can protect yourself. National Cybersecurity Alliance, they kind of do the same thing. Now, the last two on here, though, are articles that I think you should really take a look at. The first one is, Have I Been Pwned, or Pawned, P-W-N-E-D. This is a website that will check to see if your information has been released on the dark web. It's a legitimate website, but you go to Have I Been Pwned? You click on that link and you will enter your email address. You can also, I think, do your cell phone number. And it will tell you if your email has been released in a data hack. They track this. It's all stuff that's submitted to the FTC. And it will be able to tell you when and where your data was released. Now, it won't tell you if somebody used it. It will just tell you if it has been released through a data breach. There's also PC Magazine browser settings article. The PC Magazine is a great source for anything with technology, but they have a really great article on using your browser settings on your computer to protect yourself. Since there's so many different browsers out there, there's Explorer, there's if you're using an older computer, there's Edge if you're using a newer one, things like Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox. There's a lot of different types of browsers out there, but each of them have specific settings that you can set to collect the least amount of data about you, to retain the least amount of data about you, and to either increase or decrease your security settings in your browser. Those are really important for just everyday use on your computer. This article explains how to use each of those 5 major browsers and how you want to go in and change your settings to protect your data as much as possible. Alrighty, so I just threw a lot of information at you. I really appreciate you listening. If you have questions, I'm more than happy to take them now. But otherwise, thank you so much for sitting through this video. I know that this is kind of a scary topic and it can be a frustrating topic, but I'm really glad you were here to listen to the things you can do to help yourself. Thank you.